Why do humans always take and never care?
My heart is broken.
My tears will never end.
Why do humans always take and never care? My heart is broken. My tears will never end.
In the quiet village of Umuoke, something terrible once happened. Something the elders still whisper about. Something that turned joy into sorrow and greed into a curse. Many years ago, the villagers discovered a mermaid who cried pure water instead of tears. At first, they thought it was a blessing, but before the end of that year, that same blessing became the greatest tragedy the village had ever seen. Because the villagers did something no human should ever do. They drank the tears of a mermaid, and from that day, nothing in Umuoke was ever the same again. Umuoke was a peaceful village surrounded by thick forest and a wide river called Omindu. The villagers were farmers and fishermen. They lived simple lives. Every morning, women carried clay pots to the river. Men went to the farms with hoes and cutlasses. Children ran around chasing goats and laughing. Life in Umuoke was not rich, but it was peaceful. But one year, something terrible happened. The rain stopped. The clouds disappeared. The river began to dry. The farms turned brown. The soil cracked open like broken pots. Food became scarce. Water became more precious than gold. People began to suffer.
One afternoon, 3 young boys, Obina, Kelechi, and Emeka, went to the river to search for fish. But the river was shallow. No fish, no water, only mud. As they walked deeper into the riverbank, they suddenly heard a strange sound. Someone was crying. Not ordinary crying. It was deep, painful, heartbreaking crying. The boys froze. "Did you hear that?" Obina whispered. "Yes," Kelechi said nervously. "Someone is crying." They slowly walked toward the sound. Then they saw her, a beautiful woman sitting on a large rock. Her long dark hair flowed down her shoulders. Her skin shined like wet gold. But something strange was happening. Every time she cried, water poured out of her eyes like a small waterfall. The water flowed into the dry river. The boys stared in shock. Emeka screamed, "Mermaid!" The woman looked at them with sad eyes. Her lower body slowly moved. That was when they saw it. She had a long silver fishtail. The news spread. The boys ran back to the village as fast as they could. "Mermaid! Mermaid in the river! Her tears are water!" At first, nobody believed them, but curiosity is stronger than doubt. Soon, the entire village followed the boys to the river. And there she was, the mermaid, crying, her tears filling the dry river with water. The villagers were amazed. The chief, Chief Okafor, stepped forward carefully. "Who are you?" he asked. The mermaid spoke softly. "My name is Neka. I am the daughter of the river spirit. I am crying because my family has abandoned me." The villagers murmured in surprise. Then one woman noticed something. The water from her tears was clean, clear, and fresh, cleaner than the river had ever been. A woman named Mama Adaku suddenly had an idea. "What if we collect the water from her tears?" she said. The villagers looked at each other. It sounded strange, but they were desperate. Soon, women began bringing clay pots. They placed the pots under the mermaid's eyes. Her tears filled the pots with fresh water. The villagers shouted with excitement, "Water! Fresh water!" Finally, the drought was no longer a problem. People carried pots of mermaid's tears back to the village. They cooked with it, they drank it, they bathed with it. Life returned to normal.
But greed had just begun when greed entered the village. At first, they only collected the water when the mermaid cried naturally. But after some time, people became impatient. What if she stops crying? Someone said. What if the water stops? Fear slowly turned into wickedness. One day, a man named Okodili suggested something terrible. What if we make her cry more? He said. The villagers looked uncomfortable, but the idea planted a seed. Soon, they started shouting at the mermaid. Some insulted her, some threw stones near her, some mocked her loneliness. The more pain she felt, the more she cried, and the more water they collected. The villagers became addicted to the water. They believed the mermaid's tears were a gift meant for them, but they forgot something important. No blessing comes from another person's suffering. One evening, an old woman named Mama Ezine came to the river. She watched what the villagers were doing. Her face was filled with anger. "This is wickedness," she said. "You are turning a living being into a water machine." The villagers laughed. "Old woman, go home," someone said. "We need this water." Mama Ezine shook her head. "Do not forget," she warned, "she is the daughter of the river spirit. If the river spirit becomes angry, none of you will survive." But nobody listened. Greed had already closed their ears. The final cry. One night, something strange happened. The mermaid stopped crying. She simply sat on the rock, silent. The villagers panicked. "Make her cry," they shouted. Some people began throwing stones again. Others shouted insults. But the mermaid did not cry. Instead, she slowly stood up. Her eyes glowed like moonlight. Then she spoke in a deep voice. "You have taken my tears, but you never saw my pain. You turned my sorrow into your business. You forgot that tears are not water. They are suffering." The villagers suddenly felt fear. Then the river began to shake. The water started rising. The sky became dark. A powerful voice echoed from the river. It was the river spirit. The voice thundered across the river. "Ungrateful humans, you tortured my daughter for your comfort. You forced her tears for your greed. Now you will understand the pain of thirst." Suddenly, the river water began to disappear, not slowly, instantly. The water in the villagers' pots turned into sand. Every drop vanished. The river dried completely. The soil cracked again, but this time the drought was worse than before. The villagers screamed, they begged, they cried, but the mermaid was already gone. She disappeared into the deep river with the spirit of her father, and from that day forward, no rain ever fell on Umuoke again. Many villagers left the land. Some wandered into other villages searching for water. But the elders say something strange still happens there. If you visit the old river bank at night, you might hear the sound of a woman crying. But no one dares to search for her again, because the people of Umuoke learned a painful lesson. Some blessings are not meant to be taken, and some tears should never be collected. Moral lesson: greed can turn a blessing into a curse. When humans forget kindness and respect for nature, they may lose the very things they depend on to survive.